All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us. A reminder, Dana Carvey on Friday along with Mr. Tarkanian. And tomorrow we got Marcus Fizer coming in studio, so that's going to be a lot of fun. NBA vet, former player of the year in college. We'll get to the sports in just a little bit and introduce my guest in a second here, but got to get back to the phones because our loyal listeners, JD, they do wait on hold, and we like to give them an opportunity regardless of whether they agree or disagree. So I'll take a call from Chris. Chris, you've been waiting patiently on hold. We appreciate that. How are you?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Doing good. What's on your mind?
Chris.
Hey, I'm talking every day.
Oh, Chris, your phone just went out there. You still there?
Chris, I didn't hear one word you just said.
Quick, brother.
Are you there, Chris? All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Hello. You there?
I can hear you now. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay. Instead of, talking about Trump every day and wishing that he's doing something wrong and blah, 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 why don't we talk about something locally about the guy who just quit, I think it was yesterday, for using his campaign funds and had to quit.
Okay, I will gladly. Let's do that.
Why don't we ever talk about things that actually happen instead of wishing they did?
Okay, well, let me respond to what you just said and gladly stay on the line, and I'll gladly have a conversation with you. First of all, what you said to start the phone call was incorrect. I don't wish Donald Trump does something wrong. I report on the news. Now, if you want to call it fake news and you want to be like Donald Trump, that's fine. But nothing I spoke about today was fake. In fact, if you listened in the first hour, which I'm not sure you did, I talked about the Democrats not allowing Fox News to host a primary debate. Guess what, Chris? That's a big story, and I don't agree with what the Democrats did. And I spoke about that. And then I spoke about Donald Trump's high school transcripts for about 5 minutes, and I spoke about a comment that Brit Hume made about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which Fox News talks about every day. Those are stories, okay? Those are real stories. I'm not wishing something to happen, okay? So I'm sorry if you don't like the content and it's not great for Chris. I'm sorry if you want to do a 45-minute segment and talk about this local guy who just stepped down, but we don't cover everything local here politically, okay?
So Brian,
why don't we talk about things that actually are happening locally?
Okay, go ahead. It's your show. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Quit being such a jerk.
I'm not a jerk. What do you want to talk about?
You need some of that stuff which is on your.
You're the one who called into our show. You're the one. Excuse me, Chris. You're the one who called into our show, and you're the one who criticized our content. Am I forcing you to listen and call in? You're the one who took your fingers and called into the show and then criticized the content. Who does that? You want to call me a jerk? You're a jerk.
Yeah.
You're a jerk.
No, you're a jerk.
Get a life. Goodbye. See you later. Goodbye. See you later, Chris. Goodbye. You're gone.
And Chris, we've never actually had demand for local content politically, but we could always add it.
I'm sorry, Chris. I mean, this show is just designed for you. I'm sorry. Just for you, Chris.
Hey, anyways, just one thing that Trump did that was, in my opinion, genius. He bought something called 34 Place for $1 million. He put $35 million in it to renovate it, and he sold it for $500 million. 500. That's 500 to 1. Like 10 years later. That is genius.
I wouldn't say it's genius. I'd say it's a good investment. He probably had some people to help. But
that type of a return is genius.
Okay,
it happens once. I mean, that's a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
All right. Well, Albert Einstein was genius. I'm not about to go there with Donald Trump. But we're just going to agree to disagree on that,
Einstein also had zero social skills.
All right, we're going to agree to social skills has nothing to do with IQ.
And he dated his cousin.
Okay. Well, you could also make the argument that George W. Bush and Donald Trump don't have the best social skills either. But anyway, that's here nor there. We will continue this conversation tomorrow, I am sure. But the man we have with us in studio right now, geez, I hope our listener Chris is okay with us talking basketball. Because Chris, if you're not, please call back in and tell us what you want us to talk about. Because the show's all about you. Anyway, joining us right now in studio, Jamieson Welsh from Drive Time Sports. He is our hoops guru. Jamieson, what have you got yourself into here, man?
Man, this is wild. I wasn't expecting this, man. I mean, sheesh. I mean, I've heard like head coaching rumors and.
Uh-oh, you got a limp mic.
Getting ready for the conference tournaments. Like, I was going to tell you next Wednesday I'll probably be at the Pac-12 or Mountain West, but I wasn't expecting to come into this, man. Like, what's going on here?
Hey, it happens all the time, man. What can I say, man? Sometimes the callers get me a little fired up. It's all right, though. I'm a fiery guy. You know that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm really fired up about, and that is the fact that, you mentioned it. We have, 4 postseason basketball tournaments.
Correct.
Starting tomorrow, the West Coast Conference Tournament at the Orleans. We'll get to all that. I want to get to all these postseason tournaments with you, but let's start with UNLV. Let's start with something local. So, you messaged me today, and I had a few other people that messaged me today about the rumors about Fadmon.
Actually, last night, actually.
Yeah, well, right.
Yeah, when I heard, I hit you up because I know you know things.
Yeah. Well, So I go on social media today, and I'm like, oh, wow, there's a couple people, some credible, some not, that are talking that even one person saying that Thad Matta is going to be the coach next year. And I said, well, wait a second here. Let's hold back a little bit. So I made a couple of calls of people that I know. I'd like to think you have really good sources, and I'd like to think I have a few that are pretty good as well. My sources told me that no, it's not going to happen. They don't have the money to do it, and they haven't heard anything. So what have you heard?
I've heard that if he wants to be the coach, he can be the coach. There's situations where he's still getting paid from Ohio State. I think the buyout was $8 million, so there's not a whole lot of need to go out there and pay him a bunch of money right away. Also, he passed whatever health issues he's had. He's overcome them. He's 51 years old. His staff, his last year at Ohio State was only making $750,000. His top three assistants were making $750,000, which is not bad. That's doable. It's something that could be done. So it's a lot of intriguing things going on there. Like I said, I'm not coming on here to say he's about to be the next coach. I'm not saying that at all. I have no clue. I don't cut or sign a check, so it's not my decision. With that being said, there's a lot of smoke around the name, and it happened very randomly because people are talking about it, and two different people who have no connection to each other hit me last night within like 25 minutes within each text, and I was like, whoa, okay, there's something here. We'll see. I mean, as of right now, Marvin Menzies is still the coach, and we don't know what's going to happen in this conference tournament, so I don't like really talking about people's jobs while they still have them.
I do.
Nah, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, there has to be some sort of respect there. I mean, he's still technically the coach. Like, he's still the head coach. So I think there should be some respect there.
Racial epithets or not, he's still the coach.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into that, but he's still the head coach, so I'm going to give him respect as that. However, there are rumors that there are different coaches readily available for this job if it becomes available, which I think it will.
I've heard UNLV, they just don't have the money to hire a guy
so
like that.
So here's the thing. A lot of people think, let's say the contract's $1 million. Everyone thinks UNLV puts up $1 million. Not so fast. UNLV puts about a third of that up. Most of the other comes from the shoe company, whoever the shoe sponsor is. And then there's this funny thing in each coaching contract, especially for the mid-majors and nut programs, media obligation. There's a media thing where basically you either do a segment a week or something like that, and you get paid a big chunk of your contract based off of that. That's in the contract. If you look in coaches' contracts, it's either separated 3 or 4 ways. It's like school, shoe company, media, and then some other random appearance or endorsement that pays the coach's salary.
Interesting.
So the whole, you got to have $2 million for a coach. Not necessarily. However, that Matta is a Nike guy.
I heard he moved here. Is that true?
That I need to find more information about. However, a lot of people have homes here. So I wouldn't, even if he had a house here, I wouldn't get too caught up with that because it's Vegas. A lot of people have second and third homes here.
Yeah, but I think it would help.
Certainly, of course. Yeah,
if the guy already lives here, he's
and I'll tell you that Thad Matta can really recruit. He had some huge classes at Ohio State, one with Greg Oden and Mike Conley. What was it, like 3 or 4 5-stars on that team?
And Daquan Cook, yeah.
And Daquan Cook.
All first rounders.
I didn't know he was only 51. he looks older than 51, but he's also a fiery coach. He gets mad when he loses.
Well, he also wins games.
And he does win games.
Like, that's the key thing. Forget all the other stuff, because a lot of great recruiters out there that can't coach a league. But he's actually been in the Final Four twice, and that to me is impressive.
I've heard from my sources that a few weeks ago his name was brought up in the conversation, but the same reason why they didn't go after Rick Pitino was because they didn't have the funds to do it. And I have no idea at this point what is going on in Francois' mind. I have no clue.
First of all, we have no clue who's running the show. When it comes to basketball, so here's the thing. Everyone likes to go to AD and say, hey, it's the AD's call. Not necessarily. In most schools, it's the boosters who run things sports-wise. We don't know who's really calling the shots here. That's an honest and fair question. For football, we know who's calling the shots. We all know it. Everybody in this town knows who's calling shots in football. In basketball, we really don't know who's making or which group of people are making the decisions. Is it administration? Is it the boosters? Is it the AD?
Here's why I don't think it's the boosters, because they're just not writing the checks that they want. They're just not putting up the money. So in this specific situation, I don't think it's the boosters. I'm just hypothetically speaking. I don't know exactly what's going on in her mind, but I do believe that she's keeping things close to the vest right now. I do believe that. And I'm not even sure she knows what to do at this point. I don't know.
Well, I think you have to wait for the conference tournament to end. I think you have to wait till that gets up, because crazy things have happened. I mean, we've all seen crazy things and crazy teams win the whole tournament, and next thing you know, they're at 11th seed in the tournament.
Yes.
So you can't make any decisions now. You have to wait until the season's complete. With that being said, I think something comes within the next 2 weeks.
What do you think, JD?
I agree. What do you think that Thad Matta would need to? What do you think he would do this for? $2 million, 1.5.
He's still getting paid by Ohio State,
right.
I don't think
because Menzies is paid what, $750 right now?
That was 9.
Is he at 9?
If I was 9, if I'm not mistaken. But with that being said, the money isn't the huge thing right up top. I think a lot of coaches, this is a good rebound job. Now, the only issue I would have if I'm a UNLV fan or backer would be if he does well right away, is he gone in 2 years or 3 years? That's the biggest issue I see. But, I mean, if they have a chance to get a guy like that and they don't have to pay him arm and a leg, why not? I think the max they could probably pay is 1.5.
I think that Francois has to make a move because attendance is just so terrible right now.
Yes.
It's just so bad.
That's a big issue.
And that and the fact that, I mean, let's be honest, Menzies is 3-30 against top 100 teams. That is unbelievably terrible.
That is terrible. However, the folded up chairs where you can see them on TV are bad.
Yeah.
Not when people are the empty chairs where they've been sat in, but the chairs that are folded up still when you watch the game in the second half. Like, that's bad.
Where people haven't sat there for weeks.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, whoa, like, and it's not like they're all the ones up top. They're like the ones right behind the bench.
Yeah, but I do think that if she seriously wants to, if this is a stepping stone job for her, and I think that it is, that she has to make a move when attendance is just this terrible.
Right.
Again, UNLV is 30 years removed from winning a national championship, and they're one of like 15 teams to do that in the last 50.
I agree that I think that is her biggest concern. I think her biggest concern is attendance, money, and then I think her second is the team getting better, and that's a whole new can of worms. I just don't understand people in the media in this town that think that this team has shown dramatic improvement because of their record as a 5 seed in arguably one of the worst, not arguably, it is one of the worst conferences in the country. I just don't get it.
Even though the Mountain West might get 2 teams in the tournament.
They might get 2 teams in the tournament.
That's crazy. They might get more than the Pac-12, which is crazy to believe. But
that is true.
That is kind of disgusting.
That is true.
So, but I feel what you're saying.
Utah State deserves it.
Unless a USC can win the Pac-12, which could happen.
Yeah.
Utah State deserves it. I think their win against Nevada was a signature win for them. I really like that team. I think Craig Smith has to get the Coach of the Year at this point. He has to. I don't
think he has to. However,
he's got to get it.
It's definitely competition at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you have a team in the top 12 in the country that's in your I understand where you're coming because the expectations for Utah State were so low. So
they were picked like 8th in the conference.
So I get what you're saying, but whenever you have a top 10 to 12 team in your conference, it's very hard to vote that guy.
So, Jamieson, 2 questions. Who's newcomer of the year and most improved player of the year in the Mountain West this year?
Well, that's a great question. Well, Coach of the Year. Well, repeat the question.
Newcomer of the year and then most improved.
Newcomer is a very good one because you can go a lot of different ways with that one.
I've got Kada from Utah State.
That could work. Most improved to me would be McDaniels from San Diego State.
Oh, yeah.
He's taken a leap to where he's the first-round pick. Like, he's a guy that he's going to get picked in the mid to late first round based off where his game was a year ago to where it is now.
I think
totally
Jamieson, he's really improved with his post play. I think he's got better post moves now, and also I think his mid range game has been more consistent.
Yep.
He does still have some games where he's awful, but I think that mid range, 10 to 15 foot range, he was never that consistent guy.
Right.
And they're giving him the ball a lot in the post, and they should because he's especially in the college level.
And you could actually argue that Tomboy could be newcomer as well.
He could, yeah. And honestly, he's been impressive. I think he's been better than expected.
Yeah.
If anything, I think our expectations weren't that high, and he's kind of blown them away.
No one thought he could shoot. He can really shoot, and he's 6'9", 6'10". He's hard. I mean, when you're that tall, I mean, he's not really great at driving or penetrating, but he can really shoot the rock, and people didn't really expect that.
Yeah. What did you make, Jamieson, of, because we've been talking about this all week, what occurred after the Utah State-Nevada game? What did you think of that whole situation? We had the guy, Jake Edmonds, who actually recorded the video. He's got 1.9 million views of that video, which is unbelievable. Yeah. We had him on yesterday.
It's not unbelievable in March. This is college basketball time, so it's not unbelievable. That's about to be expected. I'm not surprised. I mean, you have the 2 best teams in the conference played a tight game in a place that is very difficult to play. Probably the top 10 difficult place to play in the country, if not not higher. It's basketball's competitive. Now, I'm not advocating to go in someone's locker room. I'm not saying that because that's not right. But with that being said, for those who don't play sports or have not played sports, it's extremely competitive. When you're playing at that level, it's extremely competitive. With that being said, you can't do that. You can't, because if something, let's say they go in the locker room, say a fight happens, then what? Then you're suspending them for the rest of the season. Now your 2 best teams in the conference now can't go to the tournament. Like it's a lot of stuff going on there. However, we don't know the full story. I've heard someone said this, a staff member said that. Next thing you know, these guys are coming out of the locker room and they're trying to hold Carradine down. Like, no one really knows exactly what happened. But that being said, you can't have that. I'm surprised the Mountain West came so quickly with the statement. I thought they'd wait and see for more evidence to make a statement. They just came out with a statement and said, all right, it happened. Let's move on.
Let me ask you this. If it's San Jose State or Wyoming, do you think the Mountain West makes the same decision?
I'll do you one better. Last year, we had New Mexico and Colorado State, or 2 years ago, we had New Mexico and Colorado State had a situation, and they did what they did. At the end of the day, they weren't going to jeopardize the 2 best teams in the country. They weren't going to suspend any coaches or players. They weren't going to do anything significant, especially this time of year. If it happened in January, maybe, but in March, no way.
Interesting. Yeah, I seem to think that if it was some of the worst teams in the conference, I think the Mountain West might have come forward and they might have done something about it. But look, better for the tournament. We don't want suspensions, right? Whether it's right or wrong.
Right.
How about the storyline going into the Mountain West Conference? Is there anybody throughout the country that would, besides if you're like a big UNLV fan or whatever?
This is a game that you watch now.
Yep.
This is a big game, right?
Yeah.
We don't want Fresno State to ruin this, or San Diego State, right?
And that both teams are more than capable.
Yeah,
both
they
teams
are.
are more
But
than
boy, how great would it be?
Hey, so is Colorado State, by the way. They play offense.
They've gotten better.
If they can catch a team
at home,
not shooting well.
At home, let's not get crazy though. At home, they score points.
Honestly, their splits aren't crazy on the road or home.
Medved has not done a horrible job. He has done a decent job, but he also has a couple seniors in Page and Carvacho that they can play. They can play. But Medved's done a good job. That's a team that could maybe upset somebody, perhaps. But keep in mind, they're still going to be in the playing game, so they're going to have to. I think they're going to have to play San Jose State probably.
Well, they're going to crush.
Yeah, they're going to be.
They're one of the most efficient offensive teams. I think they're top 20 in the country in offensive efficiency.
Yeah, no, they are. There's no doubt about it. They are. If you're just joining us, Jamieson Welsh from Drive Time Sports in studio, talking a little UNLV Hoops Mountain West Conference Tournament just around the corner. UNLV has one more game on the road against Colorado State. They're going to be in the 5 seed. Looks like Jamieson, they are going to be playing San Diego State in the quarterfinal game. What do you think about that matchup?
It's a good match. It's a good matchup. I'd favor San Diego State like a couple weeks ago, like we talked about, but it's a good matchup. I think that there's going to be a solid team going home early. Now, I would say UNLV is a solid team in conference. I think they're a solid team. They're not great, they're not bad. They're a solid team. I think San Diego State's a little bit above that, but not a whole lot much more. They've been very inconsistent. Thing about San Diego State, they will look great one night, and the next night they'll look like a bottom third team in the whole country. So we'll see what takes place, but I think that's a highly competitive game. But I would favor San Diego State. They have the best player on the court. Like that's all. And my thing, that's always the best thing to measure.
Yeah, if Hemsley plays all game long, San Diego State wins by 10 to 15. UNLV has to hit threes to beat anybody at this point. If they're not hitting threes, they can't beat anybody. Right. And Clyburn's not going to get those driving lanes. What Clyburn he does very well against just a little less athletic players, but San Diego State has plenty of athletes.
Yes,
they do.
I think a Rob could probably from San Diego State, the freshman could actually lock down Clyburn. They do
have some good athletes. I agree with you. I think that UNLV relies way too much on the outside shot. I don't like their offensive sets. I don't really know what they're running. I've been saying that about Marvin Menzies for several years now. The good news, though, for UNLV is that Shakur Houston has announced that he will be returning next year. Not a surprise. We all figured that
which I think is huge for Thad Matta potentially if he becomes the next head coach as well.
Or whomever it is, whoever the coach is. That's a huge guy to get back. He's a veteran college guy, and he could play.
Yeah, no question. So we'll have to wait and see how the Mountain West Conference tournament plays out. I think it's going to be an interesting tournament. I think there are more storylines right now than there were maybe a week ago. The fact that Utah State is just clicking on all cylinders, I think, is pretty exciting for the league. It's pretty exciting that Utah State will be in the big dance. I think that's pretty fair to say. They're going to be in with Nevada, barring something really bad that happens.
It's a very soft bubble this year, probably the softest bubble we've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, there's teams like in the Big 12, talking about Oklahoma getting in and Georgetown having a chance. I'm like, I just don't see it. So Utah State team that doesn't have a bad loss, I think they get in. And I think obviously Reno's getting in as well.
Jamison, can my Hawkeyes get bounced out of the tournament? Is that possible at this point?
I don't know about bounce, but they're definitely trending downward. I mean, but here's the thing, man. How do you have a coach that just curses out everybody?
I'll tell you the details on that. So the ref in that game, Steve McJunkins, every single game that Fran and Steve have had together, Fran's 1-11 in conference, and he is 6-27 collectively. His percentage as coach of Iowa is 59%. It goes down to 18% when this guy refs. They have a huge history, and it's kind of uncanny. And every single game also went over that McJunkins refed, and I know that for a fact.
Handicapping officials, boy.
Absolutely.
I don't know, man, but That is an interesting stat, that's for sure. I'm not a big fan of the Mountain West Conference officials. Many of them, not all of them. I think there's a few that are very, very good, and then there's a big drop-off. I think it's either you're very good or very bad in the Mountain West Conference. So I'm hoping that the officiating let the guys play a little bit. Certainly, if you're UNLV, you don't want a physical game. You want them to call a lot of fouls.
Right.
I think that's the weakness for UNLV. And San Diego State is a very physical basketball team.
The only thing about San Diego State is this: they have lulls of offense. Like sometimes they won't score or they can't score because they shoot a lot of threes and they're not a great shooting team. And if McDaniels is off, they really don't have a second guy to go to consistently for offense.
I'm going to throw out 3 questions to you here before we take a break here in a few minutes, and they're all going to be UNLV questions. Number 1, give me your prediction on the game this weekend, UNLV on the road against Colorado State. Second question is, give me your prediction. Well, you already did. Mountain West Conference, you're going to say that San Diego State knocks off UNLV in the quarters. And then number 3, tell me right now, is Marvin Menzies going to be the coach next year?
I do think they win on Saturday. I think it's a close game, but I do think they win. If I had to put money on it, I would say he is not the coach.
Interesting. Okay.
If I had to put money on it, I would say he's not the coach.
That is interesting because a lot of people I talk to say otherwise.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Next year is his lame duck year. Basically, what a lame duck is, that's the last year of guaranteed money as a coach. The school would have to opt in for year 5. Most people don't opt in. Most people don't go into that year without some sort of security. Either you get an extension to figure things out, or you agree to go separate ways. So for a guy that has all this going on, that's hurt his job being rumored about for the last 2 years, it seems like, I don't see him going into a lame duck year without having some sort of security. And right now there's none. Because remember, this AD didn't hire him. Did not. So for me, it leads me to believe there's a lot of smoke around the job, a lot of stuff going on. It would be very difficult for me to see him coming back for year 4 without some sort of security. And I don't see the AD giving him that security. So that's why I think, even if it's not that Mata, I just don't see Menzies coming back into that situation where he has to go through this a whole another year of hearing about his job being in question. It's very difficult to go on. You can have all the poker faces you want and the pressers and after games and before games, but to hear that every day, it is difficult.
JD, what do you think? You agree with that? What do you think? You think Marvin Menzies is our coach next year?
Well, first of all, I think that Colorado State wins against UNLV. I think their offense is too much. Secondly, no, he's not the coach next year.
All right.
And I think Thad Matta would be a great hire for every reason that we talked about. That would be a big win for Vegas and UNLV.
I think it's certainly a step up to where we're at right now.
2 Final Fours means something, Brian.
Especially at a football school.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would certainly be a step up. I mean, I have some other guys out there that I think would be better, but
we know.
I certainly think that he would be a step up. I am going to disagree with both of you, and I am going to say that Marvin Menzies will be the UNLV basketball coach next year. I do, for a number of different reasons. I know we've talked about the financials. I think that's a big part of this, and I'm not sure Francois wants to pull the trigger. I'm not sure she has it right now to pull the trigger. I don't think she's going to pull the trigger.
If he needed that big money, but it sounds like he doesn't. It sounds like that's not a barrier.
Well, if that's not a barrier, then you guys are probably right. But again, I'm not in that room. I don't know what those talks have. I don't know at this point.
And again, we've been to these games. The attendance is just putrid.
It's bad.
The hype isn't there. The student section's not even involved. I mean, on senior night there was 5,000 people there.
It's bad.
And you have the Raiders coming. And so that's another thing.
That's competition.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing to keep people's minds off UNLV basketball.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the Knights, the Raiders, potentially an NBA team. The UNLV basketball could be totally obsolete in the next 3 years.
That's a good point. I don't disagree with that. If you have a question for Jamieson Welsh from Drive Time Sports, he is our hoops guru. Give us a call right now. Anything UNLV related would be fabulous right now. 257-5396. Again, that number to call, 702-257-5396, the number to call to ask Jamieson Welsh a hoops question. We are going to get to the NBA coming up next, and I got to tell you, man, things are not looking good right now in LA. Is the team quitting? What is going on with LeBron James? Are they tanking games? Does he intentionally not want to be in the playoffs at this point, or are these guys completely out of gas? And then Snoop Dogg's comments about the LA Lakers is one of the funniest videos I've ever seen in my life. We'll talk a little bit about that. Speaking of a dead man walking, I don't see how Luke Walton returns next year. At this point, I would say 99% he's out. But then again, that's why we have Jamieson Welsh, the hoops guru.
It's 100% he's out.
All right, well, we'll talk about that. Not that I disagree with you. We'll talk about that coming up next. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with Jamieson Welsh from Drive Time Sports. The number to call if you want to be a part of the program is 257-5396. Again, that number, 257-5396. Quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM 720 AM KDWN.